Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to our weekly Chat Club. We are very happy to see everyone here, and I'm so excited because we have a special guest today, um, Michael Triplett. Hi, Michael, how are you?
Good. Good. I'm doing good.
Thanks so much for agreeing to do this chat today.
No problem. And Gulshan and I had worked together at one point at one of my at a high school, and I still have the flag that she gave me, and
oh my gosh,
the gift that she brought with her. So I pulled those out of my storage so that I could, get in the Uzbek spirit.
Oh, you still have it. This is so.
Yeah. I still have the hat. Got a little bit shapen in the move and everything, but I still have all. Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is so cute. Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah. So I want to tell everyone about you a little bit so that people know who you are. So Michael Triplett has been a teacher for 11 years. This is how I met him in the United States. And now he is the academically and intellectually gifted lead teacher for the district. When not in the classroom, Michael procrastinates and avoids working on his dissertation by going hiking and biking on the trails in his home state of North Carolina. I want to remind everyone that this is an interactive conversation. So once Michael is finished with his presentation, we'll be happy to see comments and questions from you right here under this video in the comments. We stream both to Facebook and YouTube, so please join us and we'll be happy to answer the questions. With that, Michael, please take it away.
Okay, so when Gulshan asked me to do this, I didn't quite know what to pick for the topic, but The Great Gatsby's been on my mind. It's one of my favorite novels. And it's a book that suits a lot of different readers because it has romance and suspense and murder. For the students who don't like to read, it's kind of short. It's only like 120 pages. So it doesn't take them long to get through the book. So I thought this would be the perfect topic to talk about because we have an election here in the United States, and we have a lot of, talking about a lot of people going for the American dream and what is the American dream, and a lot of people fighting for or wanting to change society here. Excuse me. It's a little different talking to just the computer. So I'm going to try not to plot summarize too much, but I just want to go through and talk about the corruption of the American dream in the novel, and feel free to stop or ask questions, or even if you just want to ask questions about how this relates to what's going on in the country, or if you just want to ask general questions, feel free to do that. So let me see if I can't change the slide here. The book was written by F. Scott Fitzgerald, and he was born in 1896 and he died in 1940. And he's from the Midwest, which is St. Paul, Minnesota, I believe is exactly where he's from. Yes. And he wrote several short stories. And if you search the internet, you can find a lot of them available for free to read. So he wrote The Great Gatsby, and that's what we teach in the high school. And it's one of my favorite novels. And there's a short story that's a much shorter version of it. I can't remember what the title is right now off the top of my head, but his favorite short story of mine, just to pardon the digression, is The Ice Palace. But the thing that I really enjoy about The Great Gatsby is like how applicable it is to what's going on in society. And it's kind of like what great literature is, those novels that can tend to stick around for a long time. They relate to things generationally over several decades. And one of my favorite things is his word choice and his style of putting the sentences together. He's a poet. He's wonderful. So let me move on to slide number 4. So just to give you an overview of the time period, that it happened in. Sorry. Before I actually get started on this, when I teach this to my students, I usually ask them what their American dream is. And and we also teach it in connection to the 1920s and the Jazz Age and to Prohibition, so they can get an idea of what the period is. And, you know, the Jazz Age is a time whenever African-American culture was starting to become more prevalent and white people were taking up some of the music and art and culture of African-Americans at the time. And that's also about when you start to see the Harlem Renaissance come in. So I'm trying to find out, sorry, I lost the place. And so, and during this time, like you start to see this prosperity, and that's where the term Roaring Twenties comes from. People are making money from World War II, and now they have money to spend. They're investing it in the stock market, and people are entering the workforce and making money, and they wanted that American dream. And one of the presidential slogans at the time was Herbert Hoover's slogan, and it's a chicken in every pot and two cars in every garage. Pardon my stumbling. So it was a time when new fortunes were being made and people were starting to make money, and they could get that chicken, the meat in their household and have their cars in their garage. And even if Prohibition banned the sale of alcohol, it didn't stop people from drinking. People started manufacturing the selling of alcohol illegally, and the people who did this made a lot of money from it. And that's where a lot of fortunes were made during this period. So those who sold alcohol illegally were referred to as bootleggers. And that term comes from, like they used to have a little flask, like you see in the bottom corner here where my cursor is. And they would hide their alcohol in their flask and push it down in their boot. So they became known as bootleggers. And so and so you see this money coming from people who are manufacturing alcohol illegally. And the character in The Great Gatsby, the protagonist, he is a bootlegger, and that's how he made his money. So let me go on to slide 4, pardon me. So whenever I start teaching this unit to my students, I start off by asking what their American dream is. And usually you get responses that are like, I want to have a good job. I want to have a family. I want to have a house. And I want a car, or I want to be able to go to college. And it's all pretty, it seems pretty wholesome stuff. They just want to be able to live life with somebody they care about and get an education. And then we have a discussion about how these things that they just mentioned, are they universal to everyone? And we usually come around to the conclusion that regardless of where you live, that everybody pretty much wants these things. So the American dream isn't really all that American. It's just what we all as people want. And an interesting thing that Fitzgerald does in The Great Gatsby is he kind of shows like how that dream can become corrupt if you let it. So it's usually after a bit of background that we discuss The Great Gatsby, and The Great Gatsby has stuck around for a while because of its important message, and it's still relevant, especially like nowadays in the U.S. and many places. For right now, we're still having debates on basic human rights. Like we have the Black Lives Matter movement here. We have new Supreme Court justice, and now we have groups of people who are afraid they're going to lose their rights. And so this novel is still applicable because it talks about, an American dream that is really a dream that we all have, just to be able to live our lives, to be able to go to school and have a family and do what we feel is good for us. So just to give you a bit of background about the novel, because geography plays a lot into it. And one of the things I love about Fitzgerald is like how he works everything in the novel, and like everything has a purpose. So the map, and on the right is what we think is East Egg, West Egg. It's the Great Neck section of Long Island, and though East Egg and West Egg are fictional places, we think this is kind of where he was basing it on. So West Egg would be here, and that's where all your new money people are. So your bootleggers, those people who got rich during the war, and they don't really hold to convention like the old money crowd does. The old money live here, and they're more like generational wealth, people who have inherited money, people who have family wealth that goes back generations, and they have an expectation of how you're supposed to behave in society and what's proper and what's not proper. And like somewhere around here, you have where the poor people live, and that is what we call the Valley of Ashes, and that's basically where all the trash gets dumped. And we'll take a look at that later on. So, and I don't know if you know John Green, but John Green, you may know because he wrote Looking for Alaska and Turtles All the Way Down, The Fault in Our Stars. He made an interesting point when he was talking about the Valley of Ashes. He was saying that wealth not only consumes the rich, but also the poor. And the drive and desire for wealth and can cause the impoverished people to be put upon, and they can have to deal with these bad living conditions, because if you're just driven solely by the need to obtain wealth, then you're not looking out for anybody else. And so he made the point that I lost my note. He makes the point that, the wealth not only consumes the rich, but it also consumes the poor, in the sense that, like, you have workers who are making below a minimum wage job and they can't afford to live. So in that sense, like the people in the Valley of Ashes, you're kind of letting the other people's drive for wealth consume the poor. Okay, so this is Eric Gatsby's Who's Who board. I'll just run through the characters and who they are, and I'll talk a little bit about each, because I don't want to get stuck in like doing a plot summary, although I'm going to have to do some so you can understand what the novel's about. And if you want to read it later, it's free on the internet if you search it. But our main character here is Nick Carraway. He's our narrator, and he's kind of like our moral compass. When he comes to New York, moves to this area and goes to New York for the first time, he's never been drunk, and he partakes in alcohol. So he befriends Jay Gatsby. And Nick Carraway is Daisy's cousin. So Carraway is Gatsby's way to get to Daisy, because Daisy and Nick knew each other. Daisy and Jay knew each other. Jay was in love with Daisy because before World War I, he knew her, he fell in love with her, and then the war hit and he had to leave. And he felt like he was never good enough for her because he didn't have enough money. And her family was wealthy, so they didn't want her marrying somebody who was poor. So he spent his entire life up to the part in the book that we get to when it opens up, that trying to obtain her love by getting more money so that he can go to her and say, look at what I've got, and do you want to love me now? So So Jay and Nick become friends, and Nick is the way that Jake is reintroduced to Daisy. So when we're looking at the map of West Egg and East Egg, Jay buys a house directly across from hers, so he can kind of see her house from his dock. And during that course of trying to reinvent himself and get himself better, make himself wealthier so he's a more attractive prospect for her, he starts changing himself, reinventing himself. He starts making up lies about who he is, about how he obtained his money. Because if you were a bootlegger, that wouldn't work out in the old money crowd. Because at Jay's house, he wanted to get her attention. And before Nick came along, one way he tried to get her attention was his wealth. And he also threw lavish parties. And that's kind of where we start to see some of the corruption of this dream come in. First of all, he was driven by wealth. He's not thinking about anything else. He wants Daisy. So he breaks whatever laws he needs to get Daisy. He throws these lavish parties to get her attention. So he's not really thinking about any of the consequences of throwing those parties other than himself. People were coming there, and they weren't coming there because they liked him. They were coming there because he had alcohol. He had free food. And there was one character in the book that showed up and just lived there for months. So in that kind of sense, you start to see how the American dream gets corrupted, because he's so focused on one aspect. He's not paying attention to anybody else around him. So if we think back to what my high school sense said about, wanting a family, a home, and a job, you surely start to see that Jay's drive to get Daisy isn't really anything substantive. It's just kind of basic and shallow of him. And even at these parties, there's one character that got so drunk, he gets in the car, he starts driving, the wheel falls off of the vehicle, and he still tries to drive it. and he ends up crashing into a fountain. But, that's who comes to these parties. They're just there for the alcohol and the drink. There's nothing really substantive or good about them. Sorry, I can't see the bottom of the screen only because. Well, yeah, only because of love, because Jay's main thing in life is to get Daisy, and he reinvents himself completely. And the whole thing about getting wealth was to get Daisy to love him. And he wants to become somebody to acceptable to her. And he wants to rewrite history so that he is the only person that she's ever loved, because you have Tom Buchanan over here, the guy with the glasses on. And Tom Buchanan, he was wealthy. He was from the right family, and they got married. She doesn't really love Tom, and Tom has problems of his own. He's got everything. He's got good looks. He's got money. He's got fame because he used to be a pro footballer, and he's still not happy. He's got the American dream, what most of us would like: money, home, feeling of security, and he's still not happy. So he can't let go of that past, because when he was playing football, that was the only thing that really challenged him. It was the only thing that made him happy. So Nick makes the comment in the book. He says, "Why they came east, I don't know. I had no side to Daisy's heart, but I felt that Tom would drift on, seeking forever, a little wistfully, for the dramatic turbulence, some irrevocable football game." So Tom's always looking back. He wants that game, and he's not satisfied. And that causes Tom to have an affair with Myrtle, because he just wants something, and he's not getting it, even though he has everything that most of us would be happy having. So Tom is having an affair with Myrtle, and Daisy knows the affair is going on, and she's not happy. And the first time you meet Daisy, she's portrayed as somebody who lives in opulence. Because he'll mention the gold in the room, the gold of her hair. It's just like, why aren't you happy? You've got so much. But she states, the first time when she meets her cousin Nick, when he comes back, she says, "The best thing in the world for a little girl to be is a fool, a beautiful little fool." And she's thinking about her daughter, and she hopes her daughter will be a beautiful little fool, because if she didn't know that her husband was cheating on her, she thinks she'd be happier. So she's also got everything. And she's got a butler, and she makes a comment that the butler's nose has issues because he's polished the silver so much that the chemicals have caused his nasal passages to decay. And there you have it, another situation where the lifestyle of the rich is causing problems for the poor and their servants. And she's still not happy. She does find happiness for a little while when she is with Jay Gatsby, but Jay just wants too much from her. He wants her to rewrite the past. She wants her to say, "I never loved Tom," which she can't do. And to finish off my chart over here, you got Jordan Baker, and Jordan is just one of those girls, just one of those women. Like I'm gonna say Kim Kardashian, one of those type of people who are big into gossip, or like a reality TV show person. They're just kind of there to talk and make trouble. Oh, no. How about Real Housewives? They aren't Real Housewives show. Just there to gossip. And that's all she basically does. And she also makes a statement in the book when Nick and Jordan are driving. Jordan almost runs over someone. And she makes the comment to Nick, "It takes two people to make an accident. So it's okay to be careless as long as the other person isn't being careless." So, and that kind of foreshadows what's going to happen to Myrtle, who is Tom's mistress. And that sort of carelessness where, I'm sorry, I'm going to do a plot spoiler. Myrtle runs out of her house in the Valley of Ashes because she sees Tom Buchanan's car coming, and she thinks it's Tom Buchanan in the car, but it's really Jay Gatsby and Daisy Buchanan coming back from the city. And Daisy's driving, and Daisy hits Myrtle and kills her. Tom realizes what's happened, and Jay knows what happened because he was there, and he sends outside Daisy's house all night making sure nothing happened. Well, Tom seizes upon the opportunity because Tom and Nick and Jordan were coming back from the city too. And they stop at George Wilson's garage, which is Myrtle's husband. And they talk to George and they say, we know what happened. The guy driving your car, that was Jay Gatsby. And Nick doesn't really know that he's doing this. So that sets George off into a tirade. And so, again, you have where people are just not very moral. They've got everything they need and they're still not happy. And he sets Jay Gatsby up to take the fall. And it comes down to where George Wilson basically shows up at Jay's house after Daisy says, I can't do this anymore. I can't love you like you want me to love you because I still have my husband. And so Jay's sitting there waiting for her to come back because he knows she'll come back. He's got that hope in his heart because he can't focus on anything else but Daisy. And then George shows up and Gatsby doesn't even see him. George shoots him in the back. And when they have the funeral, Nick Carraway gets really mad because none of the people who came to the parties would show up to his funeral. Tom and Daisy had left and they're nowhere to be found. And he makes the comment toward the end of the book that, you know, they ran off to where rich people run off to after they destroy people's lives. And Nick is just, you know, upset that no one cared about Jay Gatsby because I guess he kind of looked at Jay Gatsby and thought that he only wanted love and he only loved Daisy. But Jay was really blinded by his desire. So that's kind of a, wait a minute, I see a comment. Oh, I'm sorry. And I'm trying to keep an eye on the chat too. It's just a little weird with the way I've got my screen set up. But I will be glad to go back and cover anything because I told the school systems, like, I could wrap any subject in the school system around this book if I had to. I would have to make it a stretch some, but I could do it. So, and, you know, throughout the entire book, like, I think I saw in the comments where someone mentioned the green light. And the first time Nick sees Jay Gatsby, he's standing at the edge of the dock and he has his arm stretched out toward the dark water. And he knows he's just reaching toward that light. And that sets the stage for the entire book because Jay is always reaching toward the light. He can't see anything else. So if you're looking back at how this is the corruption of the American dream, it's really about like how the people in this novel are corrupt and they're immoral and they're selfish. And even though Jay Gatsby wasn't all that corrupt or all that immoral, I mean, sure, he broke the law, but he did it for love, right? But they were all had those flaws, and Jay couldn't see anything else but his goals. He didn't realize that maybe this isn't what I want, or maybe this isn't what's good. Tom and Daisy, they broke laws, they cheated on each other, and you know their American dream was corrupt because it wasn't really what was for them. So I think that's all I've got. Yeah. Okay. So when we're looking at corruption in the American dream, the Great Gatsby is a great book to use because we can make that applicable to today. I mean, with the Black Lives Matter movement, where you have people who feel like they are not being given a voice and where their rights are being infringed upon, then we could look back at this book. What happens when people's rights are infringed upon? You have a society that is in moral decay. And I feel like The Great Gatsby is a book that could speak to any society, not just American society, just like the American dream isn't just the American dream, you know, and even with like right now where we're having to go through counting votes and they're saying precincts aren't counting votes right. It's like, are we ensuring that all votes matter? I mean, are you ensuring that all people matter? Because if we go back to Daisy's butler, who has the nasal condition because the chemicals are irritating his nose so much, and you have the people in the Valley of Ashes, and they're basically living in squalor in very bad conditions because the rich are just consuming and people are just consuming and no one is looking out for each other. So, I mean, just sitting here thinking about it, it seems like The Great Gatsby is a good cautionary tale. It's like you can have your dream, but you also need to look out for each other too. So I have spoke for 26 minutes, and I would like to open it up so we could have a discussion or just general conversation about the book or whatever's happening. Is that possible, Gulshan?
Sure, Michael. Do you see the questions, or would you like me to read them?
I see the questions. I'm just trying to go through them.
Let me read them because I have the list of all of them, both from YouTube and Facebook.
Okay. Oh, okay. I don't see the Facebook ones then. Oh, and maybe I do. Right there, they are. But it would be nice to have someone love you so much they were willing to, just chase you forever. It gets a little scary at that point, but.
Yeah. So we have a comment from Dilshota Rabiemo. She said, "I love the movie, although I couldn't digest the book." So my question to you: is the book too complicated to read, or like for foreign, for those who English is not a native language?
Okay, so if you don't want to tackle Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby right away, he did write a short story. And there's a short story he wrote that was pretty similar to The Great Gatsby. I can't remember what the title is off the top of my head, but you could search the web and I'm sure you could find it because he's wrote so many short stories, but it's a lot shorter and it would make reading a lot easier because one of the things that I love about Fitzgerald is his vocabulary. And I know that, while we're learning languages, it's difficult to get the deep meaning of some of these words. So, I mean, if you wanted to give it a go, I'd say give it a shot because whenever I have my students read Shakespeare, for example, they start, whining and they're saying, I can't understand this. It's like, well, you don't have to understand all of it. You can take your time and get what you can get and get the idea of the story if you need to do that. So look for the short story. I think it's about 30 pages. So if you have to take your time getting through it, it would be less than trying to spend that time trying to get through The Great Gatsby. But still, 120 pages. And the movie was great. I don't know if you watched the Baz Luhrmann one that came out in 2013 or the one with Sam Waterston, who played in Law and Order, that came out much earlier. They're both great.
All right, thank you. So Shahina is asking, I didn't understand why Great Gatsby was unable to put the past behind him.
Well, that's probably one of his character flaws. He met, Gatsby, right? Okay, so he met Daisy just like right around the wartime, and he felt like he wasn't good enough for her. So his entire life became about Daisy. So why couldn't he put that behind him? I can't really answer that. I just feel like that was a flaw that he had in his character. He loved her and he loved her so much, he just couldn't get over it. So, I mean, I don't feel like that's really explained anywhere in the novel other than him. Even in that last of the book, it just says he chases after her. He chases after the green light. And there's been some discussion about what the green light actually is. My kids will usually say money because our money is green and the light is green. Some people say it's dreams and hopes. But I think for Gatsby, it was Daisy because it was at the end of her dock and is the same. It was someone he never gave up on. I mean, he built his entire life around this woman. And why? I got no clue.
Yeah, so Jahangir is mentioning this. Gatsby believed in the green light, so much meaning in one sentence.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And that's the great thing about Fitzgerald. He is very good at using economy with his words, being very precise.
All right, so Jahangir also says that it's his favorite novel, and Omon is adding that the movie is good indeed. So I'm glad so many people have watched the movie and read the novel, actually.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, so Shahina says, even Gatsby had evening parties in his house just to see his girl, right? As I remember.
Yes,
Was
you're
it
absolutely
because
right.
of the girl?
Yeah, because he was throwing these parties and he wasn't trying to get these other people just hanging on. He was throwing these parties. I'm sorry, I apologize. I talk fast naturally. I was spoken to about this. I will slow it down.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. You are absolutely right. Jay Gatsby threw these parties to get people there. And his hopes was that Daisy would show up. He wanted Daisy to come, and that's why he's throwing those parties. He wanted to get them there. Yes, you're absolutely right.
So, question from Shahina. What choice would you make if you were Daisy?
Oh my goodness. Okay, so if I were Daisy, well, I mean, am I Daisy in 2020 or am I Daisy in 1920? Because I feel like Daisy made the right choice because you got to think about it. In America, if you're divorced and you have a child, she probably won't get custody of the child in 1920. Her name will be ruined. She won't be accepted in her society anymore. She'll have to hobnob it with Jay and his criminal buddies. She'll have to leave behind her entire life. So, I mean, maybe I stay with my husband and I keep my life, my child. That's a hard decision. 2020, I would say go with the guy that makes you happy because you can keep your money and your child.
All right, thank you. Because when I read the poem, the novel, I had the same thing. Like, if I were her, what
Yeah.
would I do?
So what would you do?
Maybe what you said second, the
For 2020?
2020.
Your money and
Yeah.
your child.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, question from Amon
Okay.
Achilov. What are some solutions to mitigate or maybe even eradicate the income inequality during our time? It's definitely better now compared to the Great Gatsby times, but if you think of it, the rich are still becoming richer and the poor are going more poor.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. And I don't know what to do because that's I can just say what I would like to see happen. As far as like right now in this country, we're debating healthcare, and I don't understand why. To me, as if people are healthy and they are happy, then they are able to work and contribute to society. If people are not healthy and they are depressed or they can't get health care, then they can't contribute to society. And that brings down everything else. So why wouldn't you want people to be healthy and happy and being a partner in our economy? And as far as education goes, I think it's good for everybody. I know that not everybody needs to go to college, but you aren't hurt by engaging with other people and sharing ideas. So I would say first, we need to look at healthcare. We need to look at providing an education, and then also look at the living wage that we've got in this country, because there are still people that are making, I think it was $7.25 an hour at some restaurants or fast food chains. And in the area that I'm located in, I'm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and that's close to our state capital. So I'm in a university town, and everything here is so expensive. Like, I looked at some apartments, and I don't live in these apartments. Let's be clear. They were $3,000 a month. And I was thinking, my God, who can afford $3,000 a month just to throw away like that? Buy a house. But the people, like even teachers, you can't live in the community you teach because the income inequality is so great. So in some places. So I think look at healthcare, look at education, look at raising the cost of living. Raising the cost of living, raising what people are paid, taxing people who aren't paying their fair share, and corporations that aren't paying their fair share. And I don't have any research to back that up. That's just my opinion off the top of my head. Everybody contributes.
All right, thank you.
Back to Biden.
Jahangir Talipov is commenting, he lived with the past and wished to reiterate it, but it was already gone.
I'm sorry.
Do you agree? He says, Jahangir says, he lived with the past and wished to reiterate it, but it was already gone.
Who lived with the past?
Gatsby.
Great Gatsby. Great Gatsby wanted to rewrite the past. He wanted to rewrite his past, and he couldn't foresee a future without Daisy in it. I'm not sure if I'm answering the question or not. But he wanted to rewrite the past and change everything because he wanted to be the kind of person that Daisy could be with. Tom Buchanan could not let go of the past. He lived for those days when he was that pro footballer. It was the only thing that really challenged him, I felt like. So, I mean, maybe he was just, as far as Tom goes, Tom was just missing that, and living the easy life with your wife in a huge house just wasn't doing it for him. So I feel like everybody needs some sort of challenge in their life.
All right. Shahina is saying thank you for your answers, Michael. And Bahram Tujiv is commenting, cool topic for discussion. I enjoyed watching the movie with Leo in a leading role.
He was a good Gatsby. He was a great Gatsby. Oh,
I think he's good in everything.
What was that? Why do you think? Okay, that's the same question. Okay.
Okay, so Oman is asking, why do you think Gatsby sticks to his dream so much? Why wouldn't he reconsider his beliefs, dreams? Can we blame the society for his tragedy?
You know, I think that's an interesting question. Can we blame society for his tragedy? Like, I feel like we're products of the area that we're raised in. So I think that he knew that he didn't have enough money to be with her. I think that he knew to be with her, he would have to rewrite his past so that he would be accepted into their society, into the old money society. And I mean, to blame, I mean, I feel like some things I have to take responsibility for, and some things I can blame society for. So maybe it's a mix of him and society. And why wouldn't he reconsider his beliefs and his dreams? I don't think that he had that ability to. I mean, I feel like he just latched on that idea, and he didn't have the desire to even change it. And let's be realistic here, that the author obviously has to make things a little bit unrealistic to make the book work, because hopefully we would be like, no, this isn't going to work for us. I'm out. But I think that since Fitzgerald did do it the way he did it, that it helped us to see what can happen if we just pursue something so tirelessly that we forget to really consider if it's worth pursuing. Like, I mean, I don't know if you have any jobs or projects or girlfriends or boyfriends or whatever, but I mean, it's something to think about.
All right, thank you. Michael, I asked you before we went live, but I just wanted everyone to know, this novel is a part of the curriculum, right?
Yes, we teach this book in 11th grade English. It is part of it falls in the American literature category, which is our 11th grade group. All students are required to read it, whether or not they do, I don't know. But you can watch the movie, you can read the short story, and you can, there's all kinds of ways to engage in it, because he has really great short stories. And he also led a pretty interesting life, because he traveled a lot. He liked to party, but he also made lots of money. So I also want to go back to, I can't pronounce the name, Dilnara, where she says she doesn't like the characters very much.
Dilnara, yes.
Thank you. They're not very likable people. I mean, I think Nick is the only person that's any redeeming qualities. And Jay, I feel kind of sorry for him that he couldn't have seen more for what was going on. But they're not very likable people. I mean, I think Fitzgerald knew this, because he made the comment that you know, they retreat back into their world wherever rich people go, and you know, to ruin other people's lives or something like that. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something along those lines.
All right. So I want to remind everyone, if you have questions, don't miss the chance to ask English language teacher.
Yeah.
Literature teacher, yeah.
And it doesn't have to be about The Great Gatsby. Feel free to ask anything you want. I may not know the answer, probably won't, but I can try. Most people are unlikable. That's I hope not. Do like Nick did. Go get some new friends.
Amon is saying that he enjoyed today's session and would love to visit other ones that discuss good books. All right, we'll think about it, Amon.
Yeah,
thanks for the suggestion.
Yeah, if you're looking for other, like, I'm just going to recommend books that fall into the literary canon, the ones we usually work with here. I'll leave Twilight and the Selection series out of it because they're not the best literature, but they're entertaining. But you might want to look at Kate Chopin, The Awakening. It is like 80 to 90 pages, I think, and it is short. It's written by a female during the 1800s, like 1800s, I think. And it is great. A wonderful book.
Kate Chopin.
That's a question for you. Do we often have these kinds of discussions?
Yeah, we actually have this type of discussions every Friday at 5. We start at 6 p.m. and finish at 7, so you can join us. We don't discuss books every time, but
Yay,
sometimes. Yeah. Yeah. But let us know, guys, if you like to talk about literature. We'll have more sessions on American literature.
And yeah, how Gatsby changed his fortune. I agree with you. I think it was kind of reprehensible that he had to gain his fortune through bootlegging. But in the book, he had an inheritance coming because he partnered with a wealthy sailor to sell the ship. But then the wealthy sailor's family stole the money back. So I guess that was the only way you could see out. And he's going to pursue. And just on a side note, it was entertaining to listen to my grandmother talk about bootleggers in her community when they were growing up, about how they would try to evade police and how you should go out in the woods and you'd find these places where they're making alcohol. I just saw a question about The Last Tycoon. I haven't actually read that one yet. It's on my list. I just haven't gotten a chance to get around to it yet. But I am looking forward to reading it. I think I haven't disliked any of his yet.
Dania Hasanov is asking, what books would you recommend for high school students who learn English as a second language?
Let's see. Let me think here. Okay, so what I would do, I'm trying to think of books that I've read recently, because I read a lot of YA fiction. I'm going to look at my Goodreads. And I'm just going to throw titles out there. You need to look the books up yourself to make sure the content is appropriate, because even though they're YA, they can be a bit questionable at times. But I don't read anything too terrible. So I've read, if I can get to my list, sorry. Read. The internet's moving a little slow. Everybody's at home learning. I would suggest maybe The Red Queen. Oh, I got one for you. This book would be good. It's about like the society. What they do is they determine when you're going to die. So they give you your death date, and that's what we're going to go with. I think Matched is a good one. Election series. I'm going to throw Twilight in there. I read it, didn't love it, but Red, White, and Royal Blue, that was a entertaining read. 5 Feet Apart was a good one. I enjoyed it. And let's see here. If you're looking for a short story and you like kind of like magical realism, The Ocean at the End of the Lane is a good one. And I think I'll stop there.
Michael, if you could, I see you made notes. If you could send me the books, we could post it in the comments later for people to read, probably. Okay,
absolutely. I'll get a better list put together.
After the live session.
Okay.
Thank you. And I also want to remind that actually those who are watching us but don't know that American Center Tashkent is actually a library. So once we reopen after the pandemic situation is over, we do have a lot of nice books there, and you can come and check them out. So that's what you can do.
And I want to add to this comment. Yes, it was just like The Bachelor. The Selection series was. It was something else. I saw something about Trump. Yes, I watch BookTube, and I don't really have a favorite booktuber right now that I can call off the top of my head because I kind of just turn on YouTube and let it play. But I do watch BookTube.
Mm-hmm. We have a suggestion from Jahangir to recommend to read Abdullah Qaderi's Gone Days, available in English. It's an Uzbek novel that is very popular.
Okay. I took a screenshot of it so I could look it up. So I'll go see if I can find a copy of it. Because when Sean visited us here, she taught us about myths and legends from Uzbekistan.
Do you so we have a comment from White CIS Mail. Could I recommend Bukowski books? I could be entirely wrong, but they're quite straightforward.
Which one?
Bukowski. I've just read a Bukowski poem recently.
Okay.
It's really straightforward. There are a lot of words that kids shouldn't read. So
okay.
Yeah, maybe it's not for everyone. Yeah, but they're good. But
do your research.
Yeah, first do your research and then read the book.
I try to read everything that I can, regardless of if it's trash or not, because I can always throw it away later if I need to.
Mm-hmm. And Zenara Aripova was asking, do you watch BookTube? And if yes, who is your favorite BookTuber?
I do watch BookTube, and I kind of just leave it on, and I just let it play what's playing, or I look for a specific book and then listen to them talk about it. I don't really have a favorite one. I just kind of let it play.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to look up that poem now that I see it come across my screen. Our high school students really like Ayn Rand. I would go with Anthem because it's like 60 pages. It's short. But it's deceptive in how simple it is, because it's very simple prose. The words are very simple, but there's a lot more going on behind the scene. And like in Anthem, they have a society that has made everybody pretty much equal. You're assigned your jobs, and there's no I. So that could be hard because there's no I pronoun. Every time he says I, he says we, because he talks about the society. There's no individual, but it's an interesting book.
Interesting. That's what I try to do. Not say I, but say we when we work in team.
That's
we have a lot of teamwork.
Yes.
This one is not connected to the topic, but I just wanted to say hi to Dordona and Varova, and we miss all of our visitors too. So let's just wait when we reopen. And Izatoy Samarova is asking if we could share the links where we can find the recommended books. We will share the list of books, and then you can just Google and find them online. I don't think it should be a problem. Izatoy? All right. Any other questions? Let us know if you have questions, because we still have some time and we could take a couple. Michael, sorry?
No, you go ahead.
While we're waiting, I just wanted to ask, I just wanted to tell everyone that you've never been to Uzbekistan, right?
No, I mean, I would like to go one day when we're allowed out of the country. But I haven't been to Uzbekistan, no. But like when you were showing the photos that you sent, like you sent me some photos online where you went to visit like these ships that were in the desert. And even the ones you showed when you came to visit us, oh my God, like it had to be like 2013 or something when you came. But
2012.
I did want to go. 2012? Like I want to get out and see Uzbekistan, and I want to see, because I also worked with teachers in Romania. I want to see their country. But I've done a lot of traveling around Europe and Japan and China, but not so much Uzbekistan. Yeah,
because I know you work. I don't know how about now, but you used to work so much with international teachers, like participating in this Teaching Excellence and Achievement program as a co-teacher. Yeah, so if you ever decide to come to Uzbekistan, we'll make you do one in-person chat, and
Okay.
we'll be happy to interact with you.
Well, that'd be fun. We could do another book club.
Yeah.
But yeah, when we're allowed out of the country again. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think high school student would like. Oh, okay, that's already there. I'm gonna have to look up that one too because I don't recall it. I think my problem too is I get kind of narrow in what I like to read. But I've enjoyed chatting with you guys. I was kind of nervous when it first started because, like I said, I didn't know quite what to do the topic on. I was thinking maybe trails or hiking around here, but I think this is a better topic because this novel is so applicable to a lot of things. That's why it's stuck around. It will stick around.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so I know that you have to go. It's morning, and you have to go work now. Yeah. And I want to thank you, Michael, so much for waking up early for us before you start your work and having this wonderful presentation, telling us about the book and giving you an opportunity to our audience to discuss this and to talk to you. Thanks so much.
Okay, thank you, Gulshan, and have a great day, everyone.
Thanks, everyone, for joining us, and we hope to see you next week, next Friday at 5 p.m. as usual. Bye.